Hello, internets. I'm HamsterBomb, and you are going to sit down and listen to me while I discuss some potential fraud and embezzlement by the wonderful company called iCrea, who has decided to maybe, I don't know, I will leave the decision up to you, screw over everybody, me included, who decided to follow this board game campaign that they launched in, I think it was like 2024. But anyway, it's been a long flippin' time, and we've been waiting for this. So I'm gonna start by showing you the actual project itself, because it does look cool. But then we're gonna talk about the company itself, and you'll realize that this is almost certainly a scam. This whole project was just out there to make this company Cheesecake money. I'm not kidding. Cheesecake. The word that shouldn't show up in the comments section at all for a Shin Megami Tensei board game, cheesecake, is all over the comments. Yeah, but first let's actually look at the campaign, because I swear it actually looks kind of cool. And also, this was no small campaign. As you see here, they raised almost 100 million yen. That's a lot of flippin' money, but at the same time, that's only like 2,000 backers, okay? So for them, this is probably small beans. And if we look over here at their early bird pledge for this, which I followed this project before it was even launched for like a year. I've been waiting for this board game to come out for so long. I love board games. I love Shin Megami Tensei. I wanted to, have both together at the same time. Plus, Shin Megami Tensei figures are extremely rare and expensive. So having so many of them, there's 72 in this set. 72 of them together, oh, it's wonderful. I'm all over this. So when I jumped in and I saw an early bird pledge from me following, and I saw it open like that minute, bam, I jumped on top of it and only realized afterwards, this is limited to 1,000 backers, okay, and it's basically $300. What? And then if you're not an early bird backer and you get the next one, it is $400. So this better be an extremely good board game. Oh my god! There's gonna be a bunch of problems with this. A lot of people backed out. So yeah, so you can see up here that the full 1,000 backers did fill up, me included, and then there are 720 people who are just sitting out here waiting. And you can also see that the estimated delivery date is April of last year. Now, for a company that doesn't really make board games, that's a pretty quick turnaround, honestly. A lot of people in the comments are really mad about this, saying like, oh, it's not, they're apologizing, sure, whatever, but it's not that big of a deal. I actually backed another board game that closed around the same time, within the same month, actually, as this one, and has way more content, way more people backed it, tons of actual substantial stretch goals and things like that, and it is reasonably coming out at the same time that this is supposed to be coming out. August of this year, supposedly, is when this is going to be actually coming out. But we'll see. Let's just actually take a look at this. Maybe it won't be so bad, right? Let's just take a look. 72 demon figures. Wow, look at that big box right there. Board game is basically just Risk, though, which kind of sucks from what I've heard, but whatever. You choose an alignment. Oh my god. So like, I can't even get past this and I have to stop and talk about this. So you flip the board game over when you're done playing the beginning part, which is up to 4 players, and then you flip it over, and then there's this 2-player thing. You do law versus chaos, but you can choose neutral. Like, neutral's an option. So here's law. You can choose chaos, which, like in the original games, you can only choose demons of a certain alignment, so that's really cool. Or you can choose neutral. I'm assuming neutral is just a third faction you can choose, and you can only choose the neutral demons instead of, like, the video games being able to choose from both. Whatever. That aside, what happens when you get to the second half of the game and you have more than 2 players? Like, the other players just, like, go get a coffee or something and then come back later, finish their sandwich, go to the bathroom, and ask who won the game? I don't know. Doesn't even make any sense. Oh yeah, by the way, another fun thing. They didn't mention it, but we're already seeing the start of AI art. They didn't want to admit this, but yeah, this background art is all AI. Apparently, Atlas is not okay with this. You can actually see there's a thing over here, use of AI. We're not going to go through all of that stuff today. There's way too much crap in this campaign for me to dig through everything that they've done wrong. So instead, I just want to give you an idea, just a surface level of what they've done wrong, and an idea of what we were promised and what we're almost certainly not going to get. So we can just gloss over this quickly, because nobody's talking about this board game fiasco, because I'm dead serious. Potential fraud, scam, embezzlement, and cheesecake will all show up. Demon dialogue! Oh my god, these cards are abominable. So there's these demon dialogue cards. So basically you're playing the board game and another player will read you what the demon will say when you're trying to negotiate with a different demon or something like that. And it's all bilingual and the English is extremely small and hard to read. It is written on there. And then on top of that, the translations don't make any goddamn sense. They've even updated this and shown us newer ones in the updates and they make zero sense. I've read them over and over again. I even replied to one of their comments personally with just a quote from something that was written in the dialogue options because it made zero sense in English. I don't know what the hell they're thinking with these. Like, the game as of now is going to be unplayable if they don't even hire a translator properly. You can fuse your demons, there's grimoires, which all of this art, and it looks really cool, doesn't it? It's all AI. You're not gonna actually get this. Oh, here's the main board, and here's the flip side, by the way. So it's clearly like, you know, a Yu-Gi-Oh game of like two different sides facing off together, which, what kind of Shin Megami Tensei? Have they played the games at all? Components, obviously, here's a bunch of figures. Here's a bunch of cards with AI art that we're not going to make. Here's more cards with AI art that we're not going to make. Here, the moon is going to be a factor, but you're really just rolling dice. They did showcase videos after we bugged them for months to show us how the game actually plays, and they showed a bunch of people very confused trying to play this game together, all in Japanese, by the way. They refused to translate this part because it was embarrassing from what I've understood, and they are struggling to play the game. They don't understand how they're actually supposed to be doing anything. Nobody's having fun. It's a travesty. Chip components, of course, because, you know, it's a board game. The actual board game stuff, the rule book, guess what? It is, like, what, a year and a half, maybe 2 years? I'm not even sure exactly when this started, but still, they refuse to give us the rule book. They won't even let us read how the game is intended to be played. We don't care if the graphics are there. We just want the text to read what the goddamn game plays like, and they refuse to let us do this. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's not an authentic campaign. How to pledge. That's the first thing they want you to jump into. Even this is bilingual. An about page. Oh, here's how the Shin Megami Tensei series exists, because if clearly you arrived here and didn't know anything about that. Component detail. Now, this is the part that they actually know that they're going to sell you on. Look at all of our figurines from the series, and truly, this is the reason that I ended up caving anyway. 72 demon figures, guys. I mean, like, come on. This is the part where I genuinely look at this and go, I would have so much fun painting all these and displaying all these. I want them, but the thing is, are they actually going to come out looking like this? Are we even going to get this? Are they going to come out like cheap 3D prints? Are they going to have like lines and grooves all over them? I don't know. They do have prototypes of these. They have shown photos of them, but I will get to later. I doubt that they actually have gone past any phase of quality assurance whatsoever and simply just printed what they had as best they could, and they have no intention of making more. Because as of this moment, as I record this, in February 2nd, 2026, there is no evidence whatsoever that they have done anything for this project. Nothing. Here's those demon dialogue cards again. They're really proud about this, even though they are completely illegible. Event cards. Here's more AI art that we're not going to see. Grimoire cards. More AI art we're not going to see. And here's those videos of people very confused trying to play the game. If you want, watch them yourself. I don't have time to go over them right now because they're long and they're honestly kind of painful to get through because these people just clearly don't know what's going on. And some of them are trying to translate stuff right, like off the top of their head. They don't understand what the demon negotiation cards say. Like, the whole thing is a mess. So basically here, the game is trying to tell you, oh yeah, it's Risk. You played Risk before? The game is just Risk. And then it flips over and now it's two-player Risk. Okay, here you go. Here's your early bird special of $300 and your only for Kickstarter version, $400. Oh yeah, but it's okay. There's gonna be stretch goals. You know what stretch goals are, right? When you go into a campaign and Kickstarter or GameFound, who knows, when they reach certain financial thresholds, bam, you unlocked another thing that shows up for free in the campaign. Well, they don't know how that works. Instead, they decided how many people have backed the project instead of how much money they raised, which, yeah, that's a choice. But anyway, that's how they decided to do this. So they're like, okay, we're going to make Jack Frost dice if 1,000 people back the project, okay? If 1,800 people back the project, we'll have hologram cards. Whatever. Yeah, and if 2,000, we're going to add a new figure. So this is the stupidest way to do stretch goals I've ever seen anybody do. But hold on, did you do a little math here? If you saw how many backers there were 1,000 backers who backed just the $300 version, and then 719 that backed the expensive version. Hundreds backed out of this. And then on top of that, there are hundreds more who backed this project for a single dollar, because that way they'll have access to the pledge manager when that released, and that way they would be able to opt into the game if it did look like they were competent human beings who could make a board game, which so far has not been the case. But there basically have been well over 2,000 backers who backed this project, not just the ones who were over here backing an entire board game, but that's not what they said here. So they weren't even being honest about their stretch goals, as stupid as this was. Technically, we should have already had an extra demon figure, but they're just not going to show it to us because, of course, they get to make the rules, and the rules for them were we're not going past the dice because we have to make dice anyway. We're not even going to make some of the cards hollow, for God's sakes. That costs pennies. Why not do that? Oh yeah, here's their bogus timeline. That's not going to make any sense. Shipping fees. Oh my God, you want to hear about another scam? Just a few months or so after this thing finally closed, they decided to start collecting shipping fees from everybody when they were nowhere near shipping this out. Are they shipping it out with the fees as is, as we already charged? We already paid for the shipping. They already charged us. They just wanted all the money. Or are they going to ship it out and we paid for it? They're just going to give it to us as is. Are they going to be honest individuals? Truly? I haven't even gotten to all the dishonest stuff yet, but I'm just showing you the base campaign. There was already problems that should have been apparent right when we took a look at this. But whatever. Here's the team. Oh my God, and this creator, this dude. The Japanese community obviously knows these people a heck of a lot more than I ever will in the Western audience, so just from my understanding of reading what they had to say, you can go through the comments of this and read it yourself if you're very interested in this, but they basically said that this guy likes to call himself, quote, the board game sommelier, and he is this self-proclaimed board game aficionado, except what he has produced have been colossal failures, and historically, what he has done, from my understanding, is release one failure at a time, trying to make up the money from his last financial failure. And this is what he's currently working on to try and back up his last failure. And people were warning us in the campaign, he's trying to back his last failure's funds, and then this one is going to fail on top of it. It's just whatever board game is going to fail, he never cares about what's actually going to be fun, just the fact that the money's going to be coming in, and that's why this is an IP game and not something he personally came up with. Like I said, the gameplay-wise, it's just freaking Risk. But if the figures looked really nice, you were going to sell this anyway, and that's why the board game costs like triple what it actually should. And I'm serious, triple. And here's the publisher, iCrea. We are gonna get into them in a bit. I have reported this thing specifically to Atlas and Sega and Kickstarter. However, Atlas and Sega have remained silent on this, which they would if they're opening an actual investigation and potentially revoking a license. There is no reason for them to be sharing that information publicly to anybody if they're making an active investigation, so I understand that. Kickstarter, however, even though you can report someone to Kickstarter, if you report them and the Kickstarter determines there's nothing that they can do at the moment, you can't report them again later when some serious violation happens. And there are serious violations in this. Here's the risks and challenges. They want to make sure that you can't actually read them and they're Japanese. Oh, look at that. They actually translated it this time. This is not a normal thing for their updates. They like to post things in Japanese and then just ignore the Western audience completely. But I'd like to jump into this use of AI, which, check that out, is not translated. What do you know? Let's toss it into Google Translate really quick. What it actually says is the promotional images and some of the background elements on the Kickstarter project page use AI-generated images as source material. However, no AI-generated images are used in the actual product or any of the board game components, nor are they used as source material for those components. Meaning, they weren't going to admit it here, but this board game isn't going to look anything like what I just showed you, okay? We're going to get into the actual nitty-gritty of this. It looks nothing like that. Oh, and if you get a chance, report this project to Kickstarter. This is going to be a problem. Anyway, let's dig into the problems. Why not this one? Update 22. This is an example of what their updates are like. Pretty much only in Japanese is what you're going to get first, and this one was just about how to pay them more money. Wow, That's excellent. Here's the English down here at the bottom with none of the photos near it, but yeah, if you go back and try and figure it out, they're just asking for more cash. Excellent! This is the one where they started begging for shipping already, even though it was way too damn early, and look at that, they didn't translate it in English. And this is like a general progress update, update number 20. Like, there's just no pictures here, no proof that anything's actually happening, and we're waiting like a month or so between each of these updates. So seriously, there's just no information for us to go on. Update 26. Only in Japanese. Nice. Update 24. Here's a big one I want you to look at. Obviously, we can't read this right now, but it doesn't really matter. What they're saying is that this is what the board game is actually going to look like. Here's a picture of what the rulebook is going to look like, with a bunch of watermarks all over it because we're going to steal it. We paid for it! Anyway, take a look at this. This is what the box is going to look like now. Remember that like sleek black that they had with all the demons all over it? No. Now it's supposed to look like an old Dell computer. It looks terrible. Here's the player board, the demon board. This looks horrible. They're going for like a Windows 96 style of this. I'm dead serious. They took out the AI art and refused to pay an artist and just plopped this in here. This had to have taken minutes to make this. I could have made this, all of this, in an hour. And this took them over a year to make this. I'm not kidding you. This is what the new demon art looks like. They like the backing, it looks terrible. There's no heart to this whatsoever. But of course, here's our poorly translated fronts where we took out all the AI art and slapped on like a gradient or just a typical grayscale background or something like that. Oh, this is what the Maka's gonna look like. Woo! And there's your product updates. There you go, that you guys were begging for. This is seriously the most that we've gotten waiting this whole time. But no, we had one more update that came this morning. Let me show you. We've been begging to see information about how the actual figures are gonna look, and take a look at this. They actually sent us some pictures, but hold on. How do we know that these are actually the prototypes of the figures themselves and not figures that were already printed? Like I said, they already printed these and they were going to conventions and showing this off before the game even launched on Kickstarter. And so I already know they have a set of these. How do we know that this is not just the set where they just like took a photo already? I looked really closely to see if some of them looked really bad compared to the ones that they showed before, and it's hard to tell. Like, sure, their quality is not the best, but at least like they exist. It's really hard to say. They aren't really showing us any information, and sure, there's some English this time, English and Japanese, and they really just posted this twice, but yeah, this is a mess. So this is the actual front-facing part of this. If you read through the comments, and I encourage you to, if you are, especially if you, here's me right there. If you're working with the media, if you want to showcase this in some way, just make IKEA's balls get the squeeze so they can actually either do something or refund the poor people, me included, who were suckered into this project because of the IP. Then what you gotta do is read these comments and translate them into English, because these comments are very telling about what's going on. And there's some very interesting links that people have put in here, especially the Japanese audience, showing us things that expose what IKEA is actually like. First of all, here's their Twitter page, or at least whatever's left of Twitter after Musk rubbed his pedophile balls all over the site. So you have what? Their translated bio. This is an account to provide information about the merchandise from IKEA Ltd. This new figure, 1/6 scale Aegis EX Orgy mode. Whatever, is scheduled for release in October 2024. Wow, they don't update their stuff very frequently, do they? No, they're really bad about that. What are they actually doing here then? They're releasing, P-Cola. P-Cola, that's what they're actually doing. They have decided to move away from making board games into the food market. And they have actually been making this P-Cola for some time. In fact, there's problems with it. So I was scrolling through their feed and I found this. Report on our response to defamatory and slanderous comments regarding our company's products, which is something that I already rolled my eyes at, like, oh, of course. This is something that they're gonna get in trouble for, but like, how are they gonna respond to this? Like, you know, respond to a video like mine that is genuinely criticizing the way that they run their company and, you know, possibly embezzle funds? I don't know. Let's see what they said. Here we go. I just threw this into Google Translate from an image because they decided to post this in an image instead of actually in text to make it harder for me to translate. Luckily, Google Translate's here to save the day. I skimmed this whole thing, and you know what it actually says? That, and I encourage you to slow down, pause, and read this whole thing, but they got some sort of defamatory, what they claim to be defamatory comments from somebody out there who was upset with their company and the way that they handled their products, and they had this person come to their facility and apologize to them in person. I'm serious. And they still sued them, from what I understand. This is disgusting if this is the way that they want to run their company. But anyway, that's just this particular thing. Oh, and by the way, you can go down here, you can see people commenting like, oh yes, like, good job, you guys are the best. I am so confused. Genuinely confused. Nobody, and this is your all translated, nobody seems to be seeing this and going, oh yes, this is something that I am questioning. Why did you act like that? What did the person say? What were they exposing? What was actually at heart here? Everything that this audience seems to be all over is, oh yeah, thank you, wonderful job, this is great. It's almost like the comments aren't real. And yes, there's a bunch of comments that are like this on the Shin Megami Tensei board game page too, typically on the updates. If you go through some of the updates and read the comments on them, you'll get a couple that'll be like, great job, looking forward to the rest of the updates, when nothing was ever shown and they just asked for like shipping fees or something like that. So it's clearly iCrea working with some sort of fake bots to make their own comments look better. Disgusting. I can't prove that, but boy howdy, either that is the case or the people who follow them are completely brain dead. But yeah, they've been making this P-Cola stuff for a long time now, and on top of that is this figure that they've been working on where Persona 3, I believe. Yeah, here they are working on their stuff. Here's Persona 3 stuff. Whoa, here we go. Yay, it's Aegis, whatever. Here's this figure that's supposed to release in 2024, but we haven't updated our site, so who knows if the damn thing ever released or not. I don't know. Oh, Persona 4 is what it said? Okay, I thought it was 3. Anyway, I don't know. I haven't really played as many of the Persona games. I love Shin Megami Tensei, but I haven't just finished the Persona one, so whatever, you got me there. Anyway, a bunch of anime crap, but you know what's really the big problem? You want to know what the real problem is? Let me show you. Take a look at this. Okay, so this is a post of the man himself, the president of iCrea, doing, what is this? I will read this for you. I hear the president of iCrea is launching a cheesecake business as a new venture. It seems they're doing presentations in various places, but not providing any explanations on Megaten's Kickstarter. So where's the funding for this new business coming from? Surely they're not using the crowdfunding money for it, right? And all the comments that you find that are related to the Megaten project is they direct us from Kickstarter to go to their Twitter. They tell us to go to their Twitter to respond to them and ask them questions, where they ignore everyone. They have not actually responded to a single person's comment in the comments section in like a year, okay? They are completely ignoring it ever since they realized that this was snowballing out of control and they had no answers for anybody. They were not going to show the rule book. There wasn't anything to show for the project actually coming together in the background because they were starting a new cheesecake business. And there are some photos online of them starting the cheesecake business. But oh my god, there's still more to this. Yes, because there was more in the comments, and Spooky Tweets here is saying anything negative written in the comments was removed or spammed to override them. I'm worried since I backed the game, as did I. It's a sad and terrible response. I honestly can't believe that iCrea Inc., the manufacturer, would treat crowdfunding backers that way. In Japan, criticism is being directed at them not only from fans, but also from the board game industry and the gaming industry. I freaking hope so, boardgamer.com, because this is disgusting what they're doing with people's money. This is like this is such an obvious case of embezzlement that I hope somebody goes into this and actually tries to get the money restored to the people who paid for them, and because they've told us that all the money is spent, they can't do anything about it, which I called from the beginning. Like I said, this board game sommelier is trying to pay for his last project, and he's just trying to get out of debt with the newer ones. Here's another comment here. The Shin Megami Tensei board game has been postponed to next year just as expected. After spending more than a whole year, all they can announce is a design downgrade, an obviously rushed, bare-bones, simple design, and no sense of motivation can be felt from Ikaria at all. There's no choice but to say they simply lack the ability. If they're going to just collect the money and then pretend they don't know anything afterward, then literally every single person involved in the project cannot be trusted. On Kickstarter, one of the creators' responsibilities is clearly stated as, quote, responding to backers' concerns and questions with sincerity and honesty, end quote. But I don't feel any sign that Ikaria is willing to comply with that. If this isn't a case of running off of the money, then stop saying leisurely things like, as soon as we are able to inform everyone, and right now immediately disclose everything about the current project without hiding anything. Ikaria says this all the time. They are constantly saying, oh yeah, when we're able to, we're gonna get right on those updates. And it's been years. They're not doing anything. So clearly this is them making excuses, pushing things off, and working on their cheesecake business until they have the money to actually start fulfilling this promise to Kickstarter that they have, because Kickstarter hasn't started squeezing their nuts yet and made them actually do what they promised they were gonna do or give the money back. One of the two has to happen. Anyway, those were from Shotgun Shogun on Twitter. So this is gross. It does go deeper, but I just wanted to at least dip your toes in the water so you can figure out what kind of crap is going on over at Ikaria's business and what they've been doing to destroy the Shin Megami Tensei brand for Atlus and Sega. As much as I love it, this is a disgusting campaign that does need some immediate answers and call to action. So once again, if you work in the media, I highly recommend you take a look at this Kickstarter campaign, read through the comments, translate everything that is in there, and you can see how gross this is. Unfortunately, a lot of the comments were being removed. Mine were being removed for a while, likely because Ikaria was marking all of mine as spam comments, even though I was just asking them questions about, where's the rulebook? Can we please see that? Can we see updated images of what the board game is going to look like or anything like that? You know, nope, spam. No, get out of here. And luckily that record is all down below. I got my comments back from Kickstarter, by the way, because they had to review what my comments were and found out, no, I was not spamming them at all. But what do you think? Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and especially if you work in the media, please spread this around. Somebody else take over for this because it is getting exhausting on this side of it. As the customer, as a fan of Shin Megami Tensei, this is appalling. And Sega and Atlus should be ashamed of themselves for even considering Ikaria as somebody who is worthy of licensing their intellectual properties to. But that is all the time I have for now. Thank you all so much for joining me. Remember to like the videos and subscribe for more. I will see you all in the next video. Bye.